Good thing the stuff I missed is stuff we've said a million times already. But everything, get the recording going. And on that note, encourage everybody to keep cameras on. Just a little sense of community. As far as if you have questions, feel free to put those into the chat. If it's something you really want to ask out loud, Jay doesn't have a problem with that. Just do us a favor, use the raise your hand icon first, so we can, if he's in the middle of something, we don't not interrupting, and then we'll get you a good chance to unmute and you can ask whatever you need to ask. On that note, I'm going to turn over to Jay. He's from Southwest Economic Solutions. He's a financial coach down there, and he's going to teach us about some financial literacy. And then all you.
All right, thank you, Chad. By the way, could I get like co-host or something to share my screen?
Oh, you know what? That's the other thing I forgot to do. You should be good to share it now.
All right, cool. Thank you. Look at that.
I knew I'd forget something.
I did too. I was like, wait a minute. I'm supposed to be looking at something. There we go. All right. Perfect. So hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. Hope this weekend's been really good for y'all, or the last couple days, and hope everyone has a good weekend coming up. My name is, like Chad said, my name is Jay Gaston. I work with Southwest Economic Solutions. I'm a financial coach, and I mostly deal with our financial capabilities courses and how they're integrated with some of our other adult education and youth education programs. So welcome to Financial Capabilities Integration, empowering students with skills for life. And we'll just go ahead and dive in. So there are a few outcomes I want to tackle today. First of all, understanding the purpose and philosophy of financial capabilities education, just understanding basically why we do what we do and how we begin to execute that why, that vision that we have. Secondly, identifying the core components and key concepts of the model. So just kind of getting into the more concrete pieces of how we execute that vision and philosophy that we have. And then lastly, highlighting specifically how we at Southwest Economic Solutions, or SWES, have integrated financial capabilities trainings into our programming. So again, then we'll get a little bit more specific. I'll show like specific handouts and slide decks that we use, specifically how the course is broken down and how it can be applied in from the philosophy all the way to real world application. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and move into it. First of all, the purpose. The purpose, of course, is to help participants build the skills they need to improve their economic situation. Now, that phrase, improve your economic situation, I mean, that can mean a million things for a million different people, right? That can be really vague, really broad, but we like to boil it down in a few ways that are still pretty broad and vague, because ultimately the participants themselves will refine what that definition means for themselves, what in economic situation improvement means to them. So from our perspective, it's more consistently making ends meet. Fair number of participants we work with are not at that point where ends are meeting all the time. They're living either paycheck to paycheck or kind of chasing paychecks. So we definitely want to improve that situation. Feeling less financial stress. Again, everyone's going to define that differently, what financial stress means and looks like to them. Being able to afford the things they value in life. For everyone, that's going to mean something different. Of course, we want to talk about, making sure your bills are paid, make sure the lights are on, you can get to work, you have food on the table. But of course, there's things that are very important to all of us that we find really, really important and kind of add to life being fulfilling. And we want to make sure when we talk about improving their economic situation, we're talking about those things as well, not just about the things you absolutely have to do, but the things that mean a lot to you and drive you and keep you going forward. Of course, building a strong financial foundation for the future. Lots of our participants, we work with a lot of low-income folks who are people of color, and many of them talk about building a strong financial foundation. Building generational wealth is a term I hear all the time, at least once a week. Building that generational wealth and having a good foundation for themselves and their kids and their kids' kids, and so on and so forth. So understanding the purpose helps inform the philosophy. So the philosophy of our financial capabilities trainings is dialed from or pulled from the fact that a lot of financial workshops almost exclusively focus on building financial knowledge, generally through the transfer of general information. So they may, another financial workshop may explain, here's what a credit report is, and here's what's on it. Here's what different ways to save money. Here are different like places to put your money. Here are different loan types. And generally they're built that way because traditional workshops tend to be more about recruiting participants into one-on-one coaching or advising for the long term, as opposed to actually building the skills up front and driving behavior change. Now, of course, having a long-term relationship with the having a long-term relationship with our participants, with our students is super important, and we want to have that ongoing value, of course, but we want it to be driven from a place where they are, sort of, for lack of a better term, boots on the ground, making changes themselves, observing what they're doing, so that we are helping along the way, as opposed to just kind of hooking them with some information and then trying to recruit them into things later. So research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau shows that what you know does not matter nearly as much as what you know how to do and what you actually do. And I'm sure, you all being educators on here, I'm sure that's not news to you, right? Knowing it's one thing to know about a concept, but when you really know how to apply it, how to make use of it, how to actually use it in your day-to-day life, that's when you really see some change happening, when you really see the gears turning. So that's really the big driver of why we do what we do, is going from what you know to applying that, leveraging what our clients know how to do, and then integrating that in their day-to-day life of what they actually end up doing to drive change. So I want to dive into the philosophy a little bit longer. I went to Lawrence Tech University here in Michigan, and even my university banner is right here next to me, actually, and it's theory and practice was our motto. It's staring me right in the face. So it's really important to me to start out exploring theory a little bit before we really nail into the practice of how we do it. So there's a few pillars in our theory of change that kind of feed into the philosophy. That's motivation and buy-in, visioning and goal setting, actionable strategies and tools, behavior change, awareness and reflection, skill development, coach and peer support, and of course, improved outcomes. So all of these, as we go through them, I'm going to go through them one by one. All of them are going to feed into each other. You're going to notice some overlaps. And then once we've gone through all of them, I'm going to show how all of them connect into each other and how we really put this into practice. So I want to start off, of course, with motivation and buy-in. So to get this motivation and buy-in and really leverage or jumpstart the program, there's a few things our participants need. Of course, they have to believe that a better financial future is possible. Now, they may come into the program from the jump already feeling that way, or that's something that we need to get that buy-in with in the first class or two. But that's one of the really important things. If they don't believe that a better future is possible, then we're kind of at an impasse. We got to figure out how to overcome that obstacle first. Of course, participants also need to have the ability to achieve that better future, and have the understanding that more income alone isn't enough. A lot of times starting out talking with our clients who are in a sticky situation, they're really focused on, I just need to make more money. It's like, yes, you need more income, absolutely, but more income is not always the fix. You hear these stories every once in a while about people who hit it big, they win the lottery, they become a professional athlete or musician or something, and then years later they don't have anything because they got that extra money, but they didn't have the tools to actually leverage all that money they have now, how to save it, how to spend it efficiently, how to budget. We also need our participants to have a sense of identity that's consistent with their financial progress. And even if it's not consistent up front, they need to want to have that identity that's consistent with financial progress. So you may have someone who's like, yes, I am not good at saving money right now, but I want to be someone who habitually saves money. That's great. That's a great starting point for us, and we can build from there. They need to be willing to give financial skill building a try, of course, more than anything. We need them to be a little open-minded to at least give a try what we're talking about. And lastly, they need to have the mental bandwidth. We need to clear any sort of crisis issues or major obstacles that are in their way. If we have a participant who doesn't have a way to put food on their table, doesn't have a roof over their head, like we need to start there first before we start talking about financial education. We really need to get some of the life basics, survival basics out of the way. So if they don't have the mental bandwidth, then we're really fighting a hard uphill battle. Now they may have some obstacles when they start off with us, but of course we can help, and I'll talk about that a little later. We can help overcome some of those obstacles and provide resources to help them overcome as well. So we at least need to start here, build this motivation and buy-in before we can really do anything else. And this feeds into our visioning and goal setting. So of course, we need our participants to have a clear sense of what they want most. So we need to create a vision of some sort, even if there's a few things and it might be a little foggy in the distance, at least they can put it to words and define it. We have to figure out what they want most. And on top of that, they need to realize that they're going to have to sacrifice some things now, possibly. Some things may have to give. You may not be able to buy a new pair of shoes every week, for instance. And the way we help them define that vision is, or what they want most, it's either through a vision-focused lens or a problem or stability-focused lens. So of course, vision-focused, it's really that realistic vision of what they want most. So typically our participants, our clients that have fewer obstacles, fewer barriers, we're going to be a lot more focused on that sort of long-term vision, what they're looking for. Some of our clients are going to be more in the on the other side of the coin, where we're looking to get rid of a lot more obstacles. We're looking to resolve bad issues in the past due child support, foreclosures, repossessions, things along those lines, to help then pave the way for what the vision is after that, after we overcome some of those big obstacles. But ultimately that feeds into needing these short-term goals to achieve that vision, whatever it is, whether we're taking care of back due child support, or we are looking to start a business in a few years. Either way, we need to identify short-term goals that'll help our participants have measurables, places where they have little milestones and changes that they can make to help them achieve their vision. So once we have a vision down, once we are getting into goal setting, that allows us to really get into actionable strategies and tools. So of course, that comes with an action plan. We define an action plan as specific steps to achieve a short-term goal. Since our classes at longest are typically 14 weeks, we'd like to see some sort of progress that happens within the class period. So really focusing on the short-term goals to help achieve a long-term goal is huge. And whether that is, the goal is toward resolving a problem, whether it's forcing a new habit like saving money, or it's taking steps towards a larger goal like buying a house, starting a business, something like that. Another key piece is what we call the money management system. Our money management system is just a framework which combines our participants' rules of thumb, the habits they have, the products they use, and technology they use that work together to support financial behavior. And I'll get into money management systems a little further down the line in this presentation as well. And along with the money management system, we also provide tools and encouragement so that our participants understand what their own system is, and then they can make concrete plans to improve their system. So just recognizing, all right, these are the habits I have around spending money, saving money, paying bills, not paying bills, whatever that is. And now I can see exactly how I need to tweak those things. And then lastly, having access to opportunities. So we have a fairly concrete menu of different products, technologies, other resources our clients can access, whether it's loans they need to access to, loans and grants they need to access to pay things off or achieve short-term goals, whether it's different products like credit monitoring or credit reports, even anything along those lines. We have a pool of resources that we can leverage to help our participants feel more empowered to achieve the action plans that they put together. So hopefully this should all feed into, of course, a behavior change. This is really one of the big things that we want, really one of the big takeaways from our program in general. So behavior change, we look at this in a few different ways. Number one, decreasing their expenses. Number two, increasing their savings and being able to plan ahead for more foreseeable expenses, paying more bills on time, which feeds back to the motivation and buy-in, knowing that a better financial future is possible, being willing to try, being willing to make changes, being able to deal with longstanding issues and barriers, and of course, cleaning up any sort of past financial messes. So ideally, seeing this behavior change over the short time period that they're with us, and the long term, because these are clients that we want to continue working with for as long as possible, because we want to see them make changes in their lives and really become like standing on their 2 feet. We also have awareness and reflection, one of our other pillars in the theory of change. So of course we need our participants to have some sort of awareness around their money psychology, basically why they make the decisions they make around their money. And even more importantly, the decisions they make, are they in line with what they say their goals are? Someone says, I want to buy a house in a year, and you've had this goal for a while, but you haven't saved any money. So we need to examine that psychology around money, their thinking process around money. So of course we need to be aware of where we are, so then we can do a reflection and begin to move forward. That awareness allows us to sort of refine exactly what sort of strategies and tools will work best with each participant. So we'll present a wide range, a broad menu of options for them to try and play with. But of course, once we know exactly where they're thinking, where they're at, we can then cater things, and they on their own can also take what we've given them and begin to tweak it to fit them best. It's really what I see most often, especially when we're doing like looking at cash flow or putting together budgets. I give them a framework, and then they begin to try it, and then they figure exactly out how it works for them. And then it's super effective when they figure out how to put their own spin on it, their own flavor on it. This should also lead into skill development. So there's a few abilities that will build upon each other. So first of all, starting out with the ability to analyze and reflect on financial behavior, like we just talked about, being able to set realistic goals and identify bad habits and overcome barriers to achieve those goals. Kind of touched on in a few of our pillars that I've talked about already. Being aware of these skills and developing these skills will lead us into the ability to create an action plan, create that action plan, reiterate it, tweak it as I begin to use it, see how it's working, see how it isn't working, and make changes, developing new habits, leveraging new money management systems, and most importantly, I think, is making decisions about opportunities. A lot of the participants we're working with this program are on the cusp of something, whether it's our youth program, where they're about to graduate high school, whether it's our skilled trades program where this is integrated, where they're getting certifications, they're about to enter a new career field, whether it's our veterans program where they have just overcome homelessness and now they're achieving stability in housing and receiving benefits. The vast majority of people in our programs going through this are on the cusp of something. So really having that skill to identify and make decisions about opportunities is really important, because it can really be a launch pad for what they're going to do with their future and how they're going to achieve that vision they've set for themselves. And then this will feed into ultimately the ability to take those changes and have them last for a long time, really alter their behavior around finances and make lasting changes, and then have an action plan or action plans that they are constantly looking at, reassessing, reflecting on, adjusting, changing the systems that they're using, and adjusting their behaviors as they move on into the future. The last pillar, or second to last pillar, sorry, we'll look at is coach and peer support. So the coach would include me as a financial coach. That's our, we have work readiness coach, the career coach, if they're going through our career center. This is the rest of their, the other instructors that are working with whatever program they're in. Their peers could be the students in the program, but having this support system helps reduce the feeling of aloneness. Making big financial changes can definitely be really hard if you're on your own, and you can feel really alone. So having this giant support system is really helpful. Increasing the sense that change is possible, especially if others around them feel like change is possible, it helps influence them. providing new strategies and ideas to try, having positive reinforcement, and of course, gamification, making it fun, giving rewards and incentives for achieving goals and outcomes. So finally, the last pillar, this leads into improved outcomes. And we are measuring improved outcomes in a couple ways. Number one, the ones measurable at graduation. So when the program is over, of course, we want to see increased confidence. We want to see improved skills. We want to see them making steps toward behavior change. And for some of them, also embracing mainstream banking. We find that's a really important piece that we have clients who either don't trust the banking system or have never used a bank account, getting them back into that flow, because we find that if they're leveraging check cashing places and cash advances, they're losing money in the long term. And then long term, measurable after a year of graduation, seeing concrete changed behaviors, seeing an improved cash flow, and increased savings and improved credit. So at graduation, we're seeing a little bit more sort of soft goals. And then within a year, we want to see like hard numbers. We want to see that stress lifted off of them through the cash flow, through the savings, through their credit. So how does this all tie together? Went through all of our pillars here. They all tie together with motivation and buy-in, feeding into visioning and goal setting, which feeds into our actionable strategies and tools, which feeds into a behavior change, all whilst we are constantly becoming aware of habits and reflecting in order to get to the next step, constantly working on skill development, constantly having coach and peer support the entire way, which all leads to improved outcomes. And even once we achieve those improved outcomes, we still want to make sure that they have the habit of being aware of what they're doing and reflecting on what they're doing and making changes as they go, continuing to develop skills, continuing to have this coach and peer support. Our hope is that the classes that they're a part of, they continue to have these connections. And they continue to keep connections with us as, say, me as a financial coach, or say their career coach or work readiness coach, whatever other coaches they may be working with, our case managers, so be it. So that's looking at the philosophy. I want to transition into the core components of the financial capabilities integration. How do we actually take the philosophy and begin to actually make it actionable, the concrete pieces we take? So there's a few core components. Firstly, making it a seamless and intensive structure. So our financial workshop sessions are generally integrated into our other programs. So say it's our youth program that may be a few months long, or our skilled trades certification programs that are a few months long. It's integrated in right along all the other classes they're taking. And I'll show a sample syllabus and schedule later to show you how it's integrated. Having action-oriented content, so a lot less just talking at them and a lot more doing. Accountability, so they're actually taking the actions and seeing the change in real time from start of the class till end of the class. Leveraging the group context, I think it's really important to leverage each other and have that peer-to-peer support network. Having the support of not just their peers, but also the one-on-one financial coaching with me, which is what I mean with multimodal model. I meet with every single participant on a one-to-one basis just to understand specifically more what they are struggling with or trying to achieve, or both, and helping them make tweaks and changes to achieve those goals. Of course, establishing a long-term relationship, I've mentioned that a few times as well, but that of course is a core component of ours, and not just with us as Southwest Economic Solutions, but hopefully with the people they have gone through class with, and they can continue to be a support system for each other moving forward. We often have our students come back for talking to maybe the next class that's coming through, or for our grant. Sometimes we need them to come and talk about success stories, talk about themselves, do interviews. They often keep networks to at least a few people in the class that they stay close with, who are kind of like accountability buddies, which is really nice. So of course, like I mentioned, we need to make this a seamless, intensive structure. And part of that is starting out with intake. So when we are enrolling our clients into these various programs that we have, these different classes, the youth programs, et cetera, there's always some type of intake, filling out, basic information and supportive services and things along those lines. The financial coaching integration from my end is also or intake is also right inside of that packet as well. So there's just a few screenshots from my financial intake packet. If you decide to leverage some of these tools as well, this can look different for you, but having some sort of agreement saying, hey, as the relationship between us as client and coach, here's what I'm going to do, here's what you're going to do, here's our relationship, here's what you're committing to doing, such as creating a budget, setting goals for yourself. Of course, we want to get some basic information, but also having them up front establish a few goals, even before the class starts, at least setting a few goals for themselves so they're in that mindset of, what do I want to work on? What do I see for myself in the future financially? There's a financial confidence questionnaire that's built into it so we can understand where to start as a class. Is the class feeling very confident in their ability to save money, to tackle emergencies, to achieve their goals? Are we somewhere in the middle, or are they not all that confident? That'll sort of inform how we approach the entire class. It also has our intake packet also has a budget and a balance sheet in it. So you can also see pretty upfront what level of buy-in we have before the program even starts. If the budgets are very detailed, fill out to the penny, all right, we have some good buy-in already. They're already willing to go the extra step and make sure that just the intake information they're giving up to us is very, very accurate. Or if it's very general numbers and it's not filled out super detailed, we know, all right, we'll need to work a little hard and build that buy-in up front a little stronger. Also mentioned the schedule. I'll show another version of this as well that's a little bit bigger. So it might be a little small on your screen, I apologize. But this is the syllabus from our current class that's going right now, actually. It's a skilled trades program. Our students are taking classes to become HVAC technicians and electricians. And on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, they are taking their full-time hands-on trainings for either their HVAC or their electrical classes. On Mondays, they have financial classes with me and applied math with another instructor. And then they have on Thursdays a work readiness and career customer service class. So you can see it kind of like, say, if you're in college, for instance, if you're studying to be an engineer, of course you got to take your engineering classes, but you're probably gonna have some other electives. You're gonna take philosophy and ethics and a writing class. You're gonna take all these things that are going to ultimately really, really supplement a well-rounded future for this new workforce that we're putting out when they get their certification. But yeah, I'll dive into these topics a little further. Again, I know this is a little small. It'll be blown up a little later in the slide deck. So I want to touch on the key concepts that are a part of our financial capabilities classes. So going from the philosophy and really building in what are some of the takeaways we want them to walk away with, or what are some of the topics we tackle. So first of all, we have a few key questions that we have our participants ask themselves to understand the how and why of their financial behavior. And I'll show those on the next slide. Of course, the money management system I mentioned before, framework to examine and make changes of their financial behavior. A financial vision board, so we can very clearly in one space connect the dots between past, present, and future. Using jars. Jars we view them as a flexible framework for planning and managing cash flow. So as opposed to saying, hey, let's create a budget. A lot of times we see budget as like sort of a boogeyman word. People hear the word budget and they go, oh, no, I don't budget. Like that's for like mathematicians and engineers. I don't do budgeting. But everyone has some sort of framework. So we use jars, which we basically say, hey, you have a jar for your utilities. You have a jar for eating out. You have a jar for your childcare, right? All these things fall into different jars, which makes it a little easier to understand and implement than, say, sitting down with an Excel spreadsheet and say, all right, let's create a budget. It can be a much lower barrier to entry, which can then be eventually evolve into a more formal or rigid budget. So talking on those key questions, there's three of them. There's three key questions. And they revolve around essentials, choices, and vision. So first of all, how do you ensure that you have enough money to pay for essentials? That's one of the biggest revolving questions around the entire course. Examining those needs versus wants. How do you ensure you have enough money to pay for your essentials? Choices, how do you decide if you can afford something, or how do you decide how much to spend on something? Again, playing into needs versus wants. And then ultimately vision, because since behavior change is really our big thing we want to focus on, we want to impact the long-term behavior. Does their day-to-day financial behavior actually support the longer-term vision they have for themselves? I also want to show the money management system. I know I've talked about it a few times. I want to show how it all connects. So the image I generally show our clients, the rules of thumb, the habits, the products, and the technology, how those all work together. So money management system is simply how they pay stuff, what drives their day-to-day financial behavior. What rules of thumb do they have? Do they have? Do they say, oh yeah, I don't make lunch. I always eat out for lunch every single day. That's a rule of mine. I don't grocery shop for the week. I just eat out. Do they have certain habits? Do they always every paycheck put $20 to the side in a piggy bank or something, right? Is that a habit of theirs? What products they are using to keep their money? Do they use a piggy bank? Do they use shoe boxes? Do they use envelopes? Do they use a bank account? Do they use the reloadable payday cards? What sort of products do they use to keep their money? And then what technology they use to track their money? Do they use a bank app? Do they write it down on a sheet of paper? Do they use an Excel spreadsheet? Do they save all their receipts? All these things are the 4 pieces of what we call the money management system. Basically, how they think about their day-to-day financial habits. I think everyone does this. It's just, we're not always conscious of it. It's not always front of mind. So all this plays into the financial vision board we have. And the financial vision board is one sheet that they end up using the entire class. We have a bunch of other activities and worksheets and group activities and stuff they do at home that plays into ultimately this financial board. We'll digest and simplify it and put it here. And it's broken up into a few sections. So moving from left to right, it goes from past to present to future. And then top and bottom, first row and second row. The first row is about the systems, the things they're doing. And the bottom row is about circumstances, things maybe they haven't had too much control over. So going through this, you might be able to see how we're able to achieve some of these outcomes that we're looking to, and these behavior changes that we're looking to affect. So looking at the past is what's happened in their financial life that helps explain where they're at today. So we start off with who's influenced their money habits. You could have a parent who was really good at saving money and taught them to, when they bought something with cash, always put the change in the piggy bank. Or they might have a sibling that whenever they got paid, blew all their money and loved to flaunt their money and then always had to ask for help at the end of the month. So figuring out who's influenced them, what has served them well, what hasn't served them well, and then looking at people who they admire and would like to be like, giving them something tangible. And then looking at circumstances in the past, times when things were going well financially, and then times when things were not going well financially, which allow us to then move into the present, looking at the current status quo, factors that are currently impacting their financial life. We look at their money system and things they're doing right now that are helping them achieve their goals, things that are getting in the way of their goals, and then things they want to be doing. So basically looking at their money management system and beginning to tweak it. And then also looking at their current circumstances. We look at past circumstances saying what's affected you. We want to make sure we look at the current ones as well, understanding that you can impact what's happening right now and impact the future. So looking at what they have in their favor right now and things that are holding them back. Also in the present, creating a plan around their money system. So they look at what's helping, what's in the way, what they want to be doing, and then actually writing down steps. What am I going to do to achieve the goals and milestones I have set for myself, to tweak my money system, to tweak my actions so I can achieve my vision? And then same thing with their circumstances. All right, where are you right now? What can you do to address what's holding you back? And what can you do to build on what you do have going for you right now? How can we leverage that? So all of this feeds ultimately to the future. Looking at near-term milestones, because like I mentioned before, we'd like to set milestones that they can achieve during the class so that it doesn't feel like they've just been spinning their wheels. They can look at the end of the class and say, wow, I achieved at least one thing. I achieved X, Y, and Z, and that feels really good. And I can take that and begin achieving more in the future. So setting out something that they can achieve in the next few weeks, and then also that feeding into their overall financial vision, identifying who they want to become as a financial individual, right? Do they want to be identified as a saver, as an investor, as a someone money savvy, however they picture that in their head, how do they see themselves, and then tying that into what they want most in life. Do they want is that financial independence? Is that investing money for their kids? Is it taking care of their parents? Whatever that looks like. So everything we do ultimately ends up on this financial vision board in a simplified fashion, but I find that it helps a lot to have it all in one place right in front of them, and they can see the arrows and see how everything directly connects into each other. So there's a few more key concepts I want to touch on as well. The financial pyramid, which we'll look at on the next slide, it's kind of like the financial vision as board as well, helping to connect the dots between their day-to-day behavior and achieving a financial vision, and then tying that into the cycle of continuous financial improvement, which has a few bullet points. Kind of like we've talked about already a few times, defining a goal, assessing their current behavior, making a concrete action plan, and following through on those plans. And that cycle just continues over and over, just reinforcing that concept that this is a lifelong thing. You're going to be doing this forever, and that's a good thing. Taking a closer look at the financial pyramid, of course, like a pyramid, the bottom layer is the foundation, and every layer builds upon that. And we find that this is necessary for achieving said financial vision. So a frequent vision I hear is, I want to start a business someday. Okay, well, if you start a business, you're going to need a plan for that. And you're going to need to be willing to make changes to that plan as you reach new obstacles, or as you achieve new things. You need to make tweaks and add things into your plan. In order to support that plan, you need to have money saved up. Maybe you need multiple income streams, depending on where you're at this point. You need some sort of family and social support, whether that's your legitimate family or it's your chosen family, whether it's us as a class, if it's us who work at SWES, whoever that is. You need some sort of social network, support network. And then credit's a key piece that we definitely talk about. And then all of that is supported by their money management system. Their day-to-day financial behavior will ultimately affect what they want most in the long term. So looking at all of that, here's how we actually boil it into lesson topics. Starting off with money influencers, we've talked about that a little bit, just who's influenced how they feel about money, how they treat it now, who they want to be like when it comes to their financial vision. Money management awareness. Of course, as we saw with the theory of change, awareness is the key to beginning. Awareness and reflection is key to driving change in the future. Looking at their money management system and actually creating it and making tweaks to it as we go. Having that vision, creating action plans. Credit, of course, is a really, really key piece. I take a moment with them to review their credit reports individually. I know everyone may not have that access, but I think even if just introducing, credit concepts and how what they are doing is affecting their credit and how they can use credit in the future is really, really important, and feeds very much into this cash flow analysis. I have them for 5 weeks save every receipt that they get, or tell them, hey, if you go somewhere, make sure you get a receipt, or write it down, however you want to track that. Take a picture of the receipt, save it in your bank app, however you want to track that. And then we do a cash flow analysis, and we sit down and look at how much money they have coming in versus how much they have going out. I find consistently the credit and the cash flow analysis, these two topics are really the huge turning point to that buy-in is like there and it's building, and they're making the action plans. But once they see credit and once they see their cash flow, then they're like, oh, I really have a tangible idea of what I need to do and what I really want to do and how I can get there. So that feeds into debt management. Now that they know exactly what debts they have, what's on their credit report, what expenses they have that may have been surprising to them, or maybe they knew were there, how they can begin to manage that debt effectively. Having a financial products overview, this is the one topic where it's a little bit more tell than having a lot of action. Just finding that as we're building on all these topics, some of them are at a point where they need to know, financial basics about what's out there in the market. I had actually just this past Monday, one of our students asked me, we were having a one-on-one. He was like, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "What's a loan?" And it just hadn't crossed my mind. Yeah, we hadn't got to the point to talking about what exactly loans are. He knew what a credit report was. I mean, not credit report, a credit card was. And it's like, great, we already have a foundation now. You know what a credit card is, and we can build from there and explain what a loan is. So I find it really important to talk about financial products, especially since a lot of us don't get this education anywhere. A lot of it is trial by fire. Like getting a mortgage for the first time is how you learn about a mortgage for a lot of people. Looking at side hustles, the next topic. A lot of our participants have some sort of side gig, whether it's gig work like Uber or DoorDash, whether it's odd and end jobs, whether it's an actual part-time job, whether it's something under the table, whatever that is. Having them reframe their thinking about side hustles, as opposed to it, maybe you do need it for making ends meet right now, but hopefully, with what we're doing with the programs that they're in, they achieve a point where they don't need a side hustle, but how can they look at side hustles as still something to leverage, something that's beneficial, as opposed to something that feels like a sort of ball and chain. So really reframing the thinking around side hustles and that extra income. And then lastly, investing and saving for the long run. After all of these topics, and our full program tends to be 14 weeks long, hour and a half sessions, so about 21 hours total. So with this 21 hours, once we're getting to this point, the final topic with investing and saving for the long run, we really built a pretty good foundation. And maybe all of them aren't ready to, start investing in stocks and bonds, but they are all ready to begin thinking about how can I save effectively, or I'm going to get a new job and I'm going to be offered a 401k or an IRA or a 403b or wherever I'm working. How can I leverage that and actually have an understanding around that? And it's the last topic as well, because if we have built properly this long-term relationship, we'll be checking up with them every once in a while to make sure that they are in a position where they are saving, and as they have more questions about wanting to get more involved with, say, investments, even again, if it's just say a 401k, they feel a little more confident about getting into it and not feeling like it's something that's just super, super far away only for rich people. We want to make sure it feels more accessible to all of them. Now, we do use this curriculum for our shorter programs as well. So for instance, our youth programming and our homeless veterans reintegration program, or HVRP. Generally, these are 3 to 6 week classes. It just kind of depends on the timing, but still they are integrated with other classes and tutoring and seminars, or sorry, workshops that they have going on as well. So with our youth, we focus on, of course, the money influencers, budgeting and needs versus wants, looking at banking and saving, goal setting, credit and borrowing money, and we add in taxes. Since our youth, for a lot of them, our youth programs like age 13 to 24, a lot of them, this is first time hearing about a lot of these things. It's very foundational. And so we want to make sure we really introduce some key financial topics that are a little bit beyond just behavior, but also a little bit more education on top of it. And then with our HVRP, with homeless veterans program, reintegration program, we of course focus on money influencers as well. We look at credit again with basics. We look at bank savings. We look at resolving credit issues, taxes and financial products as well, and scams. We find this age group tends to be older, and particularly with understanding taxes, financial products, and scams. Our older participants tend to be more susceptible to, say, internet scams and financial scams. We want to make sure that they are aware of that, how to recognize them, and make sure that they don't set themselves back. Especially since a lot of them are, again, I mentioned on the cusp. They've just, they have a roof over their head now, a consistent roof. They have their benefits kicking in from the VA and other sources. Want to make sure that they have this understanding again. Youth programming is more understanding basics. HVRP is a little bit more kind of refresher and awareness, since some of them did have, solid financial habits in the past, and then something happened. They were homeless for a while, and then they are where they are with us now, kind of getting back on their feet and getting back into the swing of things. So that is a high-level overview of our financial capabilities program and how it's integrated with our other adult education courses and our youth programming. I hope it highlighted pretty well what our philosophy is and how we apply it, and how there's value into integrating this into other programs, and how it ultimately impacts our participants. So of course, I'll take any questions, but I do want to put my contact information up here. Again, my name is Jay Gaston. My legal name is Jamiil. Either way, I'm happy with Jamiil or Jay. I'm a financial coach at Southwest Economic Solutions. Here's my contact information. I know some things I went through with fairly quickly, so please feel free to call me on that number. My office phone also gets text, so you can text me too, or shoot me an email. I'm happy to correspond that way as well, and share any sort of materials and share resources. With that, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Happy to have done this, and if there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Anybody? No. Sounds like you covered it all then.
Looks like I did it. Well, good, thorough, happily.
I know.
Yeah, like, I'll go ahead.
I was just saying, I know, like, thinking of this, even I know we're thinking more for our students, but I think even for us, even though I think as educators, you probably think, oh, well, I know about financial literacy, but it's something not just our students struggle with. It's something that we all struggle with sometimes. So glad to sit through and listen, and I know it's something that I need to work on myself. So
we all have to work always. That's the takeaway.
Wish the income was a little more than it was, so I wouldn't have to think about it so much, but hey.
I feel you.
Everybody out here is probably like, yep, I agree, huh?
Hey, could I ask a quick question?
Please.
Go for it.
This is really in-depth information, and it's exactly what I've been looking for. But do you know of something that if we have students that are on a more limited basis, have you ever used something that's a little less intense? And I'm just using that word because, like I said, this is really comprehensive, and we just don't see our students enough to be able to go into all the detail. But from your experience, is there something in particular that you would suggest that, like a starting point for adult education students, like something that you could just say, hey, in an introduction of about 3 or 4 hours, maybe, to give them a taste of really what is that you should be focusing on right now?
Sure. Yeah, I will dial it back pretty far, because there's a few of our programs where sometimes I'm only coming in for an hour or two.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's an add-on piece of another program, like our CDL classes, for instance. And yeah, I can pare it back pretty far to just focus on, maybe we don't spend as much time with as much reflecting, but we do want to definitely get to, okay, here's let's make sure we understand what your money management system is. How do you feel about money? How do you deal with money on a day-to-day basis? Do you have an understanding of what's in your expenses and what's in your income? And goal setting. Like, really, if I have to pare it back really, really far, those are like the 3 big things I want to make sure I'm tackling: is understanding your money management system, understanding people's needs versus wants and goal setting, and then also understanding like cash flow, income versus expenses. Because even if just getting that basic info can highlight a lot of stuff and begin to trigger behavior change in the future.
Great. I really appreciate that information. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Fantastic question. Thank you.
Anybody else?
All right.
Okay. I guess on that note, that we'll wrap her up here. Jay, thanks again for taking the time out to do this. We do appreciate it. I saw Karen popped on, so I'm sure she'll tell you she appreciates it as well. And just a reminder to everybody, keep an eye out for that sketch validation form. Should be coming out after the conference. I would say probably by Monday. And other than that, hopefully everybody enjoyed the Spring Institute and everybody has a good weekend and a good end of the school year. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all so much. Bye.
Bye.